Now we are all settled, members. I give the call to the Honourable Shelley Payne.
Thank you, President. Well, 4 years sure went fast. Thanks must first go to my family for their support over the past 4 years. It's been a big adjustment for them, but they've been amazing. It's been hard for me not to be able to do all the things I wanted to do to support them. When I was first elected, we were still doing the shark drumline trial off Gracetown, a full-on 7-day-a-week job under intense public scrutiny, 8 hours away from home. I'm thankful to the Honourable Dave Kelly, who treated our family so well during the more than 2-year-long trial and took the time to thank us for our efforts. The kids had attended Margaret River High School for the first year of the trial so we could all be together, but Emily had wanted to come back to Esperance the following year so she could complete Year 12 with her friends. Mason was starting ATAR in Year 11 and Jackie Year 9. We hadn't anticipated an extension to the trial for another year. And then hit COVID and regional borders and cancelled school balls and all that. When I was elected in 2021, my daughter Emily, who graduated class of COVID 2020, moved to Perth and lived in the apartment I stayed in when I came up. It was so nice to see her every time I came up for sittings. But this left my 2 boys by themselves attending school in Esperance, and I was away a lot, on the road or in Parliament. Election day was Mason's Year 12 ball, and that was in itself my first sense of balancing family and the party. Our new connection was great for him, as he was racing motocross, and it saved us a bit of money, having somewhere to stay for the Perth rounds. He was even able to race at Coastal Motocross Club for the season in 2022 and won both the MX1 and MX2 Pro Intermediate classes. Jack was in Year 10 when I was elected. I hear the story regularly. In fact, I've heard it again the other day, and I'll probably hear it for the rest of my life, when he and Emily sat on the lounge together sharing an iceberg lettuce because it was the last thing left in the house to eat. When Jack got his moped license, he used to ride down and get food from the local IGA if I transferred money to him. I'm not sure exactly what he spent that money on, but I've only just heard recently that apparently there were parties most weekends when I was away and friends sleeping over lots. Now they've all finished school, it's great to feel a bit of freedom with them more or less independent. This past year, I found my trips away from home much more relaxing without the constant stress of worrying about not being there for my kids. These past 4 years have been good timing for my family. It's a big adjustment to move and live in Perth after growing up in Esperance, and I'm immensely grateful for a place in Perth where Emily could be accommodated for this transition. If we didn't have the luxury of support with our housing in Perth, it wouldn't have been so easy for her to afford to come up here. It was always so expensive for the 5 of us to come up to Perth as a family, and we hadn't spent much time here over the last 20 years before I was elected. It's hard for regional people to connect with the city. Mostly we drove, which is why I'm so grateful for the capped regional airfares our government has introduced. Jack's now in Perth with Emily and very keen to take over the room I use when I come up here for sittings. He keeps asking me when am I going to move my stuff out back to Esperance, but that's good. They can pay off the mortgage. And Mark. I've been away a lot these past 4 years. Mark has learned to do his own laundry, makes the beds with fresh sheets for when I get back, and often cooks me dinner, which I think he enjoys, and hopefully it will continue. Last week we had bluefin tuna patties, which were amazing. I do keep meaning to tell him that that wide bit on the flat sheet goes at the top, as I've noticed it sometimes on the side of the bed, and on occasion the tuna inside out, but I've learned not to be so picky about everything if it's not perfect. It's probably been the hardest on Mark with the change, as we used to work quite well together on projects, and for one person to just drop out of the picture, I can imagine it's not easy. Things were really starting to boom in the WA filming industry, and we were just getting into some really exciting projects. So hopefully we can pick up where we left off. We partnered on Discovery Channel Shark Week documentaries in 20 and 21. And we even had our shark scientist endure 2 weeks of state daddy quarantine to deliver the 2021 Shark Week documentary. It's not easy being a regional member with 18 weeks of the year in Perth and then lots of regional travel away from home in between, but I've really loved the opportunity I've had to give voice to regional people, meet amazing people across the communities I've represented, and experience the resilience of the regions. I now have 2 of nearly everything I need, including having 2 cars to service both ends of my electorate. I upgraded one of my cars last year. It had clocked over 300,000 kilometers. When I picked up my new-ish car, the salesman asked if I wanted him to connect the phone for me. I said, yes, please. Then he asked me if I wanted the contacts loaded. And while I started to say no, he had already pressed yes. He said I broke the record for the most contacts ever uploaded onto a car he sold. Well, I didn't feel too bad then about some of those contacts having rather long explanatory names so I can remember where I met the person and what we talked about. And I really need to reset the CarPlay so I can find my family when I want to ring them. Honourable Peter Foster was a bit luckier than me. He had more air services, did way more air miles, I'm sure, but I'm pretty sure I've done more road kilometres. But these past few years, I surely have racked up the air travel with wrecks. It was frustrating through COVID with many delayed flights, and it's good to see wrecks back to their old self. I thank the state and federal governments for their work in keeping the flights going when wrecks went into administration. But thinking back, there were some signs. One day, close to the announcement, they told us there's a worldwide shortage of those little creamers that you put in your tea, and that's why they had these 1-litre boxes of long-life milk. Now, looking back, I wonder if they just didn't pay their bill. I thought that after I found out that they owed the Shire of Esperance over $400,000 in landing fees. It's a shame our regional local governments have had to foot the bill for Rex's foray into the interstate market. On one of those few long-life milk flights, I was so used to being on autopilot. I was working away, not paying attention to what was happening, when I noticed in the corner of my eye the flight attendant coming with the tea. So I tipped my cup over to tip out the creamers, just like I had done so many times before, so she could fill up my cup with tea, and I ended up pouring milk all over my tray. I'd like to give a big thank you to WA Labour for giving me the opportunity to serve in this House. I thank my staff who did such an amazing job servicing such a big area of the state. Hannah, Justin, Kelly, Holly, Mandy, and Alex. 54 schools, 16 local governments, 17 community resource centres, hundreds and hundreds of sporting clubs, community organisations, volunteers, amazing Aboriginal corporations, all stretched over 100,000 square kilometres. And as regional members, we deal with such a broad range of issues: housing, roads, telecommunications, health, support services, marine infrastructure, coastal erosion, water, power, airports, mining, mine closures, the energy transition, farming, fishing, manufacturing, small business, tourism, national parks, marine planning, the list goes on. So I need to thank all the staff in the various ministers' offices who did such a great job of attending to our many requests and queries. And I do need to thank Catherine Fisher for all her amazing graphics delivered promptly in record time, helping us to look professional. Thanks to the staff across Parliament, and I do need to thank the catering staff who probably saw my family the most, with my kids adjusting from home-cooked meals in Esperance to coming in here to find a home-cooked meal. Every sitting Wednesday, Emily would send me a message. "Are we having Parliament dinner tonight, Mum?" She would come to pick me up and we would have dinner before we went home. I felt good knowing she had one healthy home-cooked meal that week. It was really nice to attend the family dinner nights here with Alira and Ziggy. And I need to thank the Honourable Lorna Harper, who regularly dropped me off down the road, especially after every late night Tuesday sitting when it was dark and Emily had long gone to bed. Thank you to my colleagues here in this House. I was privileged to be part of such a great team of lovely, hard-working people. This place has aged me and everyone here. We work hard for the people of WA, but I wouldn't change it for everything. I wish you all the best and take care of yourselves. And I had one goal last year, and that was for when I came and gave this valedictory speech that I could actually fit into the same thing that I wore when I was sworn in. And I'm very thankful that after a lot of work and quite a few lapses of willpower, I can. So I need to thank Emma at Your Reformer for the amazing reformer which helped me with all the weight I put on in the first few years here. Jogging along a rail line in West Perth was, how can I say, not quite as appealing as running along Esperance's coastal path with spectacular views, white sand, turquoise water. So thanks to my daughter Emily, who introduced me to Reformer Pilates, it's put me on the path to better health without having to look at any rail lines. I still recall clearly the first day in this House with Honourable Sue Ellery as leader, and how I was just so impressed with the way she managed the House, how she just got down to business, she didn't waste time, she didn't ramble on unnecessarily, and she spoke more sense than I'd ever heard a politician in my life. For most of my life, I can honestly say I've been disillusioned with government and politics, shaking my head and thinking, oh my God, why are these people running the country? It was the last place that I actually ever wanted to have anything to do with, but I did want to make a difference. So well done to WA Labour. You've changed my long-standing view about governments and politicians. Our team works hard, is sensible, wants to do the right thing for WA, and I'm immensely grateful for the opportunity I have had to serve the people of Western Australia as part of the WA Labour team. I did have the privilege, being Deputy Whip, to sit behind the leader and the ministers, which was great to have a close-up view of how they ran the business of the House. And I got to sit for the first half of this term next to Honourable Pierre Yang. And not only did I watch and learn with Pierre, he showed me how to prepare for speaking without typing out my notes, which was extremely valuable. He also taught me how to clean my glasses. So you'll be pleased to know, Honourable Pierre Yang, that every day I wash my glasses and I dry them with toilet paper. Life-changing. I'm still trying to get Peter to do it. One of the big privileges of this job was really seeing firsthand how the inside of government works. It was inspiring to see how ministers like Alana McTiernan were able to drive so many great changes for the agricultural and regional development portfolios. She worked hard and got things done. With 3 kids attending school during COVID, 2 of them doing ATAR, I was pleased we had Honourable Sue Ellery handling our schools during the pandemic. Minister Dawson delivered many new well-tailored fire trucks for our emergency services volunteers in the region when Minister for Emergency Services, and I commend him for launching our nation-leading plan for plastics and Container for Change program when Minister for Environment, both of which we rolled out this term. The regions are in good hands with Minister Dawson now in the regional development role. We do get a lot of spam emails in this job, and the environmental activists are actually particularly good at mobilizing a lot of people to send us emails. We had this joke because we were just so good at doing so many great things for the environment. We said, save all their emails and we'll spam them all back. First, we'll hit them with our plan for plastics, then we'll hit them with our Container for Change program, our 5 million hectares of new national parks, the ending of old-growth forest logging. But I do need to acknowledge the team at LEAP, who are very passionate about their Jarrah forests at Quindanning. Take the tourist drive down to the lovely Quindanning pub for a nice Sunday lunch if you haven't yet. There were so many firsts in this House in the 41st Parliament. To sit beside Honourable Rosie Sahana for most of this term, the first Aboriginal person elected to the Legislative Council, was such an honour, and she always had a good supply of mints and sweets. I'm proud to be the first Canadian-born elected to the Legislative Council, and I was pleased to win Honourable Sue Ellery's inaugural Christmas cook-off with my Canadian pumpkin pie. I had the privilege of opening the first WA Labour electorate office in Esperance in over 30 years when former Premier Mark McGowan officially opened my office in 2021. Thank you to Mark Reid for supporting me in opening this office. He used to call me Member for Esperance. Being a female representing the regions was a great privilege. Many of the women I spoke to hadn't come across a female politician before. I cherished my engagement with Aboriginal organisations. It was great to support our community resource centres, the female councillors across the regions. When it comes to community support, it's mostly women supporting those in need and women in our schools. And I met amazing women who are the powerhouse behind many of our farming groups. So many great women doing great things for our regions. I do wish I had more time to achieve everything I wanted to for the regions and the state, but I've done my best with the time I had to advocate where I could, and I've made sure all the issues and concerns of my electorate have been reiterated to all the new ministers. So everyone can rest assured their concerns have been raised. And this place has taught me patience, that things will come in time. I'd really like to share with you my top 10. Not the top 10 biggest injections of funding into the agricultural region, nor the top 10 biggest events I attended, but the moments over the past 4 years that I'll remember as I travelled out around the regions and beyond, and where I've met so many hardworking, resilient people who have put so much into their communities. So, not in any particular order. Number 10, the opening of the world's biggest lollipop in Ravensthorpe. This actually happened before I was elected, after I ran in the federal election in 2019. Yes, I was on council in Esperance, but I had no official position covering Ravensthorpe. Owner Belinda Harg rang me up and asked me to speak at their opening, and I was most pleased to. How could I refuse speaking at the opening of the world's biggest lollipop? It was such a fun opening event for the community. And to me, this giant lollipop just epitomizes the struggle a lot of us have with our local governments in getting our projects through and approved. It was a challenge for Belle to get the approval to put up her giant lollipop. It was a dream she had, and she got there, a great show of resilience and patience. It's always busy at Belle's shop with so many people stopping in rather than just passing through, and it's been really great for the town. I think because of a technicality, they never quite made it into the Guinness Book of World Records. The lollipop was made of a couple of different materials, not all the same material. But it's still the biggest lollipop in the world, so well done to Belinda and Darren. And whenever I drive home, I stop in to see how Belle is, get the goss of the town, and pick up my kids some lollies from the shop to relieve the guilt of being away. Ravensthorpe is a resilient community, having experienced the closure of both their mines over the past year and more recently their food store. But look, these small local governments, they do need our support and help. We've got a big energy transition coming up, and the regional local governments that are going to be affected are reaching out for support. With the 16 local governments I've dealt with, we've had great relationships. They're all great, hardworking people doing the best for their communities. And to them, I say thank you for all you do for your communities. Particularly, I'd like to acknowledge Narrogin, West Arthur, Tambaluk, Noangarup, Kojonup and Williams for the work they have done towards developing planning policies for wind farms, planning for future need, and the engagement they've had with their communities on this issue. So, number 9. Ottawa, the capital city of Canada. It's my hometown where I grew up. Of course, my British parents always took us in summer to the Canadian Federal Parliament buildings to see the changing of the guard, just like they do it in Britain. We had fun watching the soldiers marching and the marching band playing. So it was such a privilege to have the opportunity to attend the Canadian Parliamentary Seminar in Ottawa, at the Parliament where I had previously only looked on from the outside. I met fellow Canadian MPs and walked the halls of Parliament. I can tell you a funny story. Remember during COVID when we had to use those silly paper water cups? And as Honourable Peter Foster would know, quite a few times I knocked my paper cup over and flooded my desk. Well, we attended question time at Canadian Parliament, and I witnessed the Prime Minister of the day, Justin Trudeau, knock his water glass all over his papers on his desk. And after that, I haven't felt so bad about being clumsy with those silly paper cups. My sister had the privilege of voting for new Prime Minister Mark Carney at their recent election, and I hope we can engage more and improve our relationship with Canada, given we have a lot in common, and they sure love our wine and our lamb. But yes, it was definitely such a privilege, and I got some great contacts now, and it was great to have had the opportunity to visit some of those parliamentarians at their parliaments across Canada and get an insight into the way their parliaments operate. I must also thank the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association and the Parliamentary Academy for the work they do, providing training and bringing together parliamentarians from across the Commonwealth. Number 8, to represent the multicultural community of Katanning was such a privilege, the most multicultural regional community in WA. To see the heart of that community and how they work so well together to support each other is amazing. I want to give a shout out to former Shire President Liz Gadra, current President Christy DePrill, CEO Peter Klein, Denise Gallen-Wood from the Community Engagement Team, Julie Hayden from Badgebup Aboriginal Corporation, Alex Mighty, the imam at the Katanning Mosque, and all those many other people working hard to build a united community. The Katanning Harmony Festival is always a favourite event of mine. I'm just amazed at the way the Shire and the community come together and the number of volunteers they have, and the food in Katanning is so good. One thing that stood out for me was the Vanuatu dancers, and the passion they had for their culture was so evident. It really inspired our traditional owners to be proud of their culture and dancing as well. It just shows how embracing multiculturalism has so many benefits. This year, the Cocos Malay celebrated 50 years in Katanning. Rescued from slavery on Cocos Islands, many came to Katanning to work in the meatworks. Incidentally, there's a Malaysian travel blogger called Saiful Nang. He's the top travel blogger in Malaysia. He's been to Katanning so many times, and he loves the Malay culture that's been preserved in Katanning. He's given a lot of promotion to Katanning, and they're now getting a lot of Malaysian visitors. His YouTube channel, Rare TV, Video of Katanning, has been viewed over 1 million times. I spoke to Alep yesterday morning when I grabbed my coffee at his Daily Grind Cafe, and he told me he was having 16 Malaysian visitors for lunch. I had a trip to Malaysia last year to attend a Commonwealth Parliamentary Academy Advanced Parliamentary Residency course, and I looked up Saiful Nang and his nonprofit group, RPWP, and reached out as I wanted to thank him in person for the promotion he had given Katanning. With 750,000 followers, I didn't quite expect him to respond. But he invited me to see his community centre, and boy, did they give me a wonderful formal Malaysian welcome, complete with Malaysian drummers, an amazing assortment of Malaysian foods. It's an afternoon I will not forget. And here I was trying to reach out and thank them for their support of Katanning. I'm pleased to have caught up with Saiful recently at the Perth Zoo, where they brought over 60 people to WA and Katanning from Malaysia. Number 7. It's been such a pleasure hosting the Parliamentary Friends of the Commonwealth with Honourable Steve Martin and Honourable Brian Walker. There are many community groups in WA working to support those from different Commonwealth countries that have made WA home, and all those living here from these countries have made such a great contribution to WA. With British parents and having grown up in Canada, I've always appreciated the Commonwealth bond we have with many other countries, all united in peace with a view to supporting the smaller countries. Especially now, with all the conflict across the globe, the modern Commonwealth is something we can be very appreciative of. We hosted 2 great functions, one at Parliament House and another at Government House, which was a great event, with many of them wearing their traditional dress. Thank you to Governor-General, His Excellency Chris Dawson, for hosting the event, and to UK Consul-General Marie Rennie for speaking at the event. I had the pleasure of seeing firsthand the development of the new Pacific Island Council of WA. I first got involved due to the many Pacific Islanders working in my region at the abattoirs in Esperance and Katanning, and in Esperance we have Islanders working at our aged care facility. Well done to Matilda and Joe, who volunteer their time to support the Pacific Islanders, and to Talay, who put a lot of effort into setting up the Pacific Island Council of WA. It's been an absolute pleasure to be invited to community events by the WA Fiji Association and Tongans WA, Hula and Malole. Number 6, I love our community resource centres and how amazing the staff are at tailoring their support to their communities. I'm so glad we fund the 98 centres across WA, giving them the flexibility they need to service their communities. I've loved popping in to catch up whenever I pass through or stop over. Teresa at the Franklin River CRC and the amazing art lessons she does for the kids after school, and the youth centre she's setting up in the town hall, and her awesome wine region merch. By the way, the best wine in WA comes from Franklin River in the agricultural region. We've even got it as our Parliament label wine. Zach at the Wage and CRC and his support for the Wage and Youth Centre, the food relief program he's running with help from the food bank, his mentoring of young Chloe, who started her traineeship at 15. The traineeships we fund across our CRCs are really fantastic, and I've met some great trainees and love to see the variety of traineeships underway which suit the individual community's needs. Karina at the Hopetown CRC and the youth centre she's set up, she's so great at applying and receiving grants. They are always running programs in the school holidays for children and youth. Along with Liz and the team at Ravensthorpe CRC, they've given amazing support to their communities through the 2 mine shutdowns. The work Rebecca did at Tambalup CRC to support women's health. Susanna and the Lake Grace CRC run the State Library's Better Beginnings program and run an Aging in Place program. Well done to the many CRCs running Aging in Place programs to help people stay in their communities longer. Hazel and the Williams CRC and their Wildlife Warriors Environmental Education program. Fiona at the Jaramungup CRC and her initiatives on preserving the family history of the area. Katie at the Katanning Hub CRC and the youth pool nights they run in conjunction with the police. Katie organised an amazing Thank a Volunteer event recently with help from our Thank a Volunteer grant program. I never thought I would get homemade yochi in Katanning. Yum. Lisa at the Newdegate CRC and their support of the farming community. They've got a biggest morning tea this week with their annual bake-off, where everyone brings a plate and they judge the best baking. It's community events like these, made possible by our CRCs, that help bring our regional communities together. Melita at the Noangarup CRC, she was the first and only Aboriginal person I met working at a CRC, and it was great to chat to her about how things were going in her community. Most prepare regular newsletters for their communities, and many, like the Dumble Young CRC, operate the local library for the local government. I've loved passing on ideas across the CRCs when I see one of them doing something really great and innovative. You've got to be a self-starter to take on many of the initiatives these CRCs do, and they certainly all are. I don't really want to talk about COVID, apart to say that we managed it very well, and the CRCs were really great at helping us distribute our free rats. So number 5, one of my passions is old historic hotels in the regions. Many of them are over 100 years old, and the owners don't have the money to restore them properly, and a lot are in disrepair. I think maybe coming from a different country, maybe I appreciate the uniqueness of these old hotels. Meal at a pub, creaky staircase, toilets down the end of the hall, make your own breakfast. My kids love them. I always remember what Honourable Wilson Tucker said about his impression of Perth in his inaugural speech. It's quaint and like going back in time. We must make sure we don't lose vision of what makes us unique, because that's also what makes us attractive to visitors. It's been so inspiring to see communities getting together to purchase and reinvigorate their old historic hotels. The Ongarup Hotel, owned and renovated by their community, looks great. Well done to the Darkin community who purchased the Darkin Hotel and have done an amazing job renovating and reopening it. The Cookerin community recently purchased and renovated their over 100-year-old Cookerin Hotel, and it has an amazing new beer garden. The Broomhill community is still working on renovating their community-owned hotel and have had help from a REDS grant. I hope if the Water Corporation progresses Flat Rocks Wind Farm Stage 2, that we can work with the Broomhill community to get some legacy out of the need for construction workforce accommodation. Tambalup nearby also has a lovely old hotel that is privately owned still, but could do with some help. To bring these old buildings up to today's standards with electrical wiring and fire safety requirements is challenging. Although not community-owned, the Premier Mill in Katanning is fantastic, and I've loved staying there. I hope Nigel Oakey will get on and start work in Narrogin at the 19th century Horden Hotel he purchased there before COVID. Given Narrogin is in line for potentially $2 billion of renewable projects, there'll be plenty of demand for accommodation if these projects go ahead. Number 4, I've immensely enjoyed my time engaging with Aboriginal corporations across the regions. Esperance Dalyarak Native Title Aboriginal Corporation is an amazing organisation doing so many great projects. Well done, Peter, Gale, Janelle, and the team for all your hard work. Keedak and Narrogin have run many training programs with the aim of training up local Aboriginal people to help support their community. Cert 2 in community support, Cert 4 in mental health. Leanne is continually advocating on a wide range of issues. Julie Hayden at Badgebup Aboriginal Corporation in Katanning is such an inspiring woman, and she's been amazing at driving better outcomes for Aboriginal people across Katanning and the surrounds, particularly through the Early Years Partnership Program that we're funding. Johnny Rod does an amazing job with their ranger program, and they support rangers from surrounding towns, including Kojonup, Tambalup, and Noangarup. I love Badgebup's collaborative approach and focus on working together. Ezard Flowers has done some great work raising awareness of the Marybank Mission where he grew up and the Carolup artworks made by the children there. Grant and Ann Riley of Woody Aboriginal Tours in Dumbleyoung. Robbie Miniter at Noangarup Aboriginal Corporation and the work he's done to set up a ranger program for his community and his work towards trying to revigorate the old farm training school. Craig McVie from Kojonup Aboriginal Corporation and the work he has done bringing culture into Kojonup's Kodja Place Gallery. If you go through Kojonup, make sure you stop there and check it out. Now and Up Aboriginal Corporation had the first Aboriginal Ranger program in WA. I'd like to thank them for the tour that they gave me on country. Eugene Eads started work with Greening Australia and Gondwana Link over 20 years ago, and it was great to see them take back ownership of the land that they have helped to restore. Wallable Cape Southern Noongar Aboriginal Corporation is one of the new corporations set up under the Southwest Land Settlement, and they've done an amazing job of hitting the ground running. Number 3, the local champions, the people on the ground doing such amazing things across the communities. People like Crystal Wiggins at Nelson Primary School, who's worked to set up a new parent and family centre. All those working in our community support organizations, like the amazing team at Escare and Esperance. I commend all those community support organizations making up the interagency group in Esperance for the collaborative way they work together to support the Esperance community. All the amazing St. John volunteers that have put in years and years of volunteer service. People like Barb from Katanning, who volunteered for 50 years, Wendy Price in Ravensthorpe, Kylie, Paul, and Veronica in Esperance, Yana, who's working hard to get a new St. John's facility in Bremer Bay. Well done to the local community there, raising $400,000. People like Anne McLeish, who's personally raised over $328,000 for the Royal Flying Doctor Service through her fundraising walks. SES volunteers like Leonie and Donald in Esperance, Keith in Ravensthorpe, who will soon receive his 45-year service medal and started the SES in Ravensthorpe, Danielle and Susan at the Narrogin SES and the work Susan is doing to start a cadet program there. The Volunteer Fire and Rescue Service volunteers like Brian Willoughby and Harry Moyer with 65 and 45 years service, and the many years they have supported the Junior Fire Brigade in Esperance. All those running the Container for Change program to raise funds for their communities, like the Bremer Bay Men's Shed, who have collected over 1 million cans and raised $100,000 towards their men's shed. All the inspiring local business owners I've met too, like Justin Armstrong and his amazing new malting facility east of Narrogin, Kate Clayton and her all-female team at the Katanning Vet Clinic. Noangarup's the powerhouse of manufacturing, and I've loved seeing Rod Richardson's pink quadruple road train and his bright yellow mega seed storm machine, all manufactured in Noangarup. Tiffany at Bread Local, who keeps us fed in Esperance. The many arts groups, including Brad and Casey at Narrogin Arts and the team at Rave About Arts, and Ken and Jane at Esperance Community Arts. Councillor Sue Layton and the team that has delivered the annual Ravensthorpe Wildflower Show and Spring Festival for over 40 years, the biggest of its kind in the state, with over 700 different species on display, some of them so amazing and out of this world. All those putting together the annual agricultural shows. I've loved attending shows at Esperance, Narrogin, Katanning, the Newdigate Field Days, the Wage and Woolarama these past 4 years. Many people have thanked me for being there, and it's been a great opportunity to connect with the many people across the regions and hear about what's important to them. I'd like to shout out the WA Police, who are so active across our regions and always at community events like these shows, and go the all-girl team at Cranbrook Police Station. And finally, I want to mention all those sheep farmers who have reached out to talk to me about the issue of the live sheep export. Phil Blight, Karen Harrington, Sarah Brown, Andrew Scanlon, Jeremy King, Michael Campbell. I thank the Premier for meeting for a roundtable with those from the industry and hearing their concerns. Sometimes I wish there was a plan and a path before decisions were made. Shortly after this meeting, Craig Hegarton passed away, and I want to thank Craig for everything he did for the industry and send my condolences to his family and commend Liz and her children on the way they have bravely shared Craig's difficult cancer journey. Number 2 is my journey of being in the regions and trying to find out, how do you get state government to listen? So I'm very thankful I've made it this far in my journey. I'm proud of all the achievements our government has made for the regions, and it's great that we now have regional ministers who are an additional advocate for those in the regions. Thank you to the McGowan and Cook Labour governments for everything that's being delivered to the regions. We've made the biggest investment in the regions than any other government in history. Our airfares cap and our regional road upgrades are 2 of the best things we have delivered. Being on the road again, I'm so thankful we've been able to invest over $1 billion into regional road safety upgrades with over 10,000 kilometres completed already. This investment has been crucial to making our regional roads safer. And a big thanks to Main Roads for actioning a lot of my requests for repairs to dangerous road damage. And thanks for the sign-off indicating the turn-off to Katanning. I look forward to the work that will soon get underway for planning of the new Esperance Senior High School. Number 1, and this is probably my number 1 as well, I really need to give a shout out and thanks to those doing the hard work to support the most vulnerable in our community. People like Chris and Sue Meyer, who have run Esperance Care Services for 25 years. They do so many amazing things for the homeless and those in need, including emergency relief and advocacy, supporting the homeless with their Friday night barbecues, they've opened the new Nolson Community Hub to support the community there. They take all the donations from the Esperance community and run a great op shop. They help to furnish houses for those less fortunate. They supported the Pacific Islanders when they arrived in Esperance, so far away from home and family. They have over 70 volunteers. Thank you so much to the ECS team. Sister Sahaya and the team at Divine U in Narrogin, who are now a regional distributor for Second Bite, and they have worked hard to set up the facilities to enable food relief for the Narrogin community. I'm pleased to have been able to give both these organizations election commitment funding. Jan McKenzie at Restore Hope Foundation in Esperance, who for many years delivered food to the doors of needy families in Esperance. A lot of these organizations rely on project funding, and there's little funding for overheads or staff wages, making it difficult for them to meet the demand for their support. I want to shout out also to the CRCs doing food relief for their communities. I first met Craig at Wild Catcham CRC very early on in my term, and he showed me the food bank boxes he had got to distribute to the community. I told other CRCs, and Zach and Wagen got onto it straight away and has been doing it ever since. Zach also works with the school to get any leftover food from the school breakfast program at the end of each term. So that's my top 10. So what's next for me? Well, things were getting pretty exciting before I was elected. The film industry was starting to boom in WA, and I'm excited about what we might be able to do now that I'll have more time to work on some new projects again. Mark's on the red eye tonight to start another film shoot for 6 weeks on some nice coral-fringed island. 6 weeks should be just about enough time for me to clear the paperwork in the Home Office that has piled up for the past 4 years. And it seems like a little payback for me from being away all the time. I'll likely be alone, apart from Mason, coming off his Dido shifts on the drill rigs for his weeks off. I'm looking forward to seeing him as I was on the road for his last break, and he can't make it tonight as he's on shift. Maybe I'll finally get time to start editing Mark's book about all his wild white shark encounters. I want to get Salisbury Island recognized on the National Heritage Register, another project I was partway through when elected. And I also want to finish our project of setting up live feed cameras on Salisbury Island so everyone, no matter whether they are a school student in outback Walloona or someone from across the world, they can see this amazing place both above and below the water. And we can continue to inspire our next generation to take care of our planet and appreciate the natural world. I'm pleased that this is now a new marine sanctuary as part of the South Coast Marine Park. So, a big thank you to everyone who has supported me through these past 4 years. I've been honored to represent regional people across so many amazing communities and have had many experiences I will treasure forever. I've been immensely privileged to serve in this House and thankful for the skills and the knowledge that I've gained. So thank you again to everyone at WA Labour.